Howdy. Today we will be covering the last part of our second chapter, the second part, and it's related to the topic that we have already started, and it's motivation. Motivation, we understand, is the underlying cause of a certain behavior in ourselves and employees. It's a basic element of human behavior, and it can cause the arousal or energy put into some effort, the direction of this effort, or the way we envision our effort to produce a result versus another type of outcome, and persistence, which is the continuation of this effort. Of course, it's a voluntary behavior, the one that is influenced by our motivation. It's a very individual characteristic because it depends on individual needs, individual desires, individual inclinations and attitudes and goals. We have different approaches to motivation. There are different theories, and I'm very happy that we will cover that many theories on motivation. So the best one, there is no best one, but there are some that are more favored than others, but they start with very simplistic approaches and they kind of become more elaborate as well sophisticated. The first one is the need-based approach, and it's basically understood as motivation having an underlying cause based on needs. So needs go from very elemental, from survival, to more sophisticated like power. The theories including this approach are Maslow's needs hierarchy, Adler's sex system related and growth theory, and Herzberg's two-factor theory. They are all very, very similar. The cognitive process approach, my favorite and the most favored by researchers in the area of education, has to do with the conscious beliefs, thoughts, and judgments of the person. It goes pretty much into the mind of the people and try to influence that set of thoughts, beliefs, and judgment. Here we have expectancy theory, goal setting theory, social learning theory, the most favorable of them all, and equity theory. Then you have non-cognitive approaches also. They are basically from the behaviorist school, prior to the cognitive school, and then the constructive school of thought. And it was basically the beginning of the field of education, and it's basically kind of Pavlovian, if you will. And I hope we understand what we mean by Pavlovian. And that means that it's independent of the individual's thoughts or beliefs, and it focuses entirely on the outcomes or the exerted behavior of the individual. So here we have the reinforcement theory. On the needs-based approach, pretty much we understand a need as a deficiency or imbalance, whether it's of the physical order or physiological to the psychological order. And of course, in this approach, needs drive behavior. Here you have a little schematic of the process. You have first a need that is activated, all the way to a need that is satisfied, with a very specific example, a layoff announcement. And the tension it creates, does it lead to improved performance or job search? That's the direction. And performance improvement or fear to being laid off, and a need of security satisfied. The second approach, the first theory is Maslow's need hierarchy, and here you have pretty much 5 levels of needs, and according to the importance, go from the elemental, physiological, all the way to self-actualization. And again, it touches or categorizes needs in this manner, and they have to be satisfied for the individual to feel like it's worth performing a training or an action. In Adler's first theory, it's a simplified theory. instead of 5 steps, you have 3. And they go again from very basic existence, relatedness, and growth. Existence, of course, related to physiological existence. Relatedness, pretty much related or involved with group dynamics, and growth, which is a little bit more sophisticated. It has to do with more cognitive, more mental growth. And this set of theories or this approach is complicated to test. Research has not shown true impact of this theory into understanding the motivation of employees or workers. So this it sounds like a very, very good theory. The cause and effect is to many quite evident, but it hasn't shown any evidence of real impact or real utilization in the field. It's good to know it. Then you have the cognitive process theories. Again, they are very, very widely spread. They are also my favorite. And they assume that motivation is a conscious choice. It has to do pretty much with employees. Number 1, believing they can perform successfully. Number 2, believe that this performance has any value. And also they believe that the actual process is going to generate a good outcome. So this is the expectancy theory, and it's basically to have that expectation. And here one example. We have employees that may or may not attend HRD sessions if they think, they are convinced that they will learn something. 2, it will increase their job performance, it will have that outcome, and that increase in job performance would reward them properly. The second one is the goal-setting theory, and it's basically, I call it like the carrot type of theory, in which pretty much it's based on the goals that will motivate the worker, and it mobilizes the effort of the employee if he or she thinks that those goals are attainable, and they increase the persistence and affect, of course, the strategies. And goals that are very specific, not ambiguous, difficult, and accepted by employees, they are more likely to be assimilated or accepted. Of course, it has to do with proper feedback, so it enhances its effectiveness, and the sense that the goals is achievable has to be present. In the social learning theory, which is the most favored one in at least the area of engineering education and technology education, the motivation is based on outcomes and self-efficacy. I'm not sure if you've heard of this term. It's very widely used. Self-efficacy is a term that of the century, I would say. Study after study after study try to measure self-efficacy. What is this? Okay, the outcome, we understand, is the actual result. Is the person's belief that performing a given behavior will lead to a positive outcome. And self-efficacy has to do with the people's judgment of the capabilities he or she has to organize and execute a course of action to attain a certain type of performances. So it's basically the confidence, in other words. Self-efficacy is the confidence somebody has about a certain activity. So again, study after study after study shows the importance of feeling confident about anything that we want to try to learn. So that's a very widely used theory. This is pretty much one schematic of the self-efficacy. So if, let us say, we think we can perform well. Then we analyze the task, we try to check on the performance history, and again, this will lead again into a behavioral outcome, and it's a loop process, and it pretty much has more than one iteration, as we have already mentioned with our growth mindset. And this major prediction of social learning theory is the self-efficacy. Again, study after study after study shows the importance of feeling confident about any learning endeavor. We have then later the equity theory, and again this has to do with the desire to be treated fairly and the perception about being treated fairly. The basis of the equity theory is to have a fair outcome in exchange for the effort, and also people determine this fairness based on comparison with others, and the perception that they are treated unfairly would lead to either reduced or just quit on the activity. If we reduce the feeling of inequity, we will pretty much be successful on this approach. So the more we treat or make people perceive they are treated fairly, the more we will have an increased motivation in our stakeholders. Here a little schematic also on equity theory, and again at the very center is that the social comparison based on inputs and outputs, or the offer of reward or a better performance than the actual outcome. In the reinforcement theory, we have basically the reward. This is another of the carrot, I call carrot theory, Chapter2 theory. And this is non-cognitive. It's totally independent, as I mentioned before, totally independent of the person's inner thoughts, beliefs. So again, from a school of thought that was prior to most of what we do today, and again, from a Pavlovian perspective, and I hope everybody understands what I mean by Pavlov. So it's totally based on the law of effect, and basically what it says is that the behavior, which is all we care in this approach, the behavior of the employee is based on the reward system that we have constructed. So we have positive reinforcement, and for most of the people this term is common knowledge, and it's basically the reward. Negative reinforcement, it's interestingly the removing something aversive after the behavior is performed. It's not that it's a punishment, that's another type of indicator. And extinctions, and it's pretty much trying to decrease the frequency of our behavior. Then we have this kind of disclosing our motivation theories. We have another aspect of motivation, and it has to do with attitudes. And again, I call attitudes and kind of the inclinations we have towards a certain behavior or a favorable thought about something. So these attitudes are pretty much of a combination of social pressure to behave in a certain manner. So I understand attitudes, for example, having a bad attitude about mathematics. That's a widespread social pressure understanding, like, I don't like mathematics, and it's basically motivated in many instances just by this aversive thought, just by one or two experiences, early experiences, but foundational experiences, but more or less in that sense. And finally, we have another aspect of motivation that it's important, and it has to do with knowledge, skills, and abilities. And if the employees lack this triad, and it's very likely they fail. So we fail as a student. So by abilities, we understand these are our basic capabilities, and it's kind of a general term. What do I understand by an ability? It's something that I have had from very early experiences. So I have an ability, a musical ability, or a mathematical ability. It's not related to specific interventions or specific training. It's something that we have developed over time, and we are just inclined to have a very, very broad ability. Okay? Skills are the actual capabilities that we can grow out of a certain training or intervention. And knowledge is pretty much our understanding, the concepts that we can acquire. So with this, I finish my brief explanation on motivation, and we are ready for our group dynamic. Thanks.